I've just arrived in Forest Lake, Minnesota, to look at a TR1. It's a airplane composite, low wing, pretty high performance, but a good range of both low speed and high speed. It's a really nice airport, really well kept. Some beautiful hangars, and there's the airplane. This is the tail dragger version. It's a GRT class panel plus conventional instruments. Older Terra radios, but everything works. ADS-B. Lycoming O-290 engine. It's kind of an orphaned engine from Lycoming, but it's an O-290D, not the D2. So I believe 130 horsepower. And low time on the motor. There are wheel pants for it. That's a nice lines in a small airplane. They're not a bad handling tail dragger, but the rudder is kind of minimal for a tail dragger. And if you notice, this one is equipped with vortex generators along the vertical. That helps increase the rudder authority. Looks like a mall tail wheel. A large amount of the wing is flapped, so it actually has a pretty good low stall speed, low landing speed. And here's a safety wiring expert.
We don't want evidence.
Getting some tail wheel time on a Champ. Osceola, Wisconsin, actually. Great little airport. And a great airplane, by the way. Requires rudder, which I'm used to flying things that don't really require much rudder. Since my tailwheel endorsement was about 30 years ago, I decided to get some dual in a Champ, which luckily was available, and the instructor was available just about 20 miles from where I was going to pick up the TR1. Here I'm doing a medium speed taxi test. I get up to about 30 or 40 miles per hour down the runway. Very, very gently I lift the tail a small amount and then put it back down and then continue taxiing down the runway. The brakes aren't very good. So instead of, there's a lot of residual thrust even at very low RPM. So even if I pull the throttle back, the plane is going pretty fast.
I heard the roughness in the low RPM.
Yeah, but if I normally wouldn't do that low of RPM, but the brakes aren't effective enough. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I just don't have a lot of brake. And after, 2 stops from kind of speed, I thought I'd let the brakes cool down and just check everything over. The engine felt good at higher RPM. It was just...
How high of RPM did you have at the most?
I didn't really check, but I was accelerating pretty good, as much as I wanted to. Over 2,000, but under 2,500. My second runway high-speed taxi test, this one probably to about 45. I brought the tail up a little bit more and a little longer, and it's actually very controllable, easier to control than the Champ. At the Forest Lake Airport, there's a banner towing operation, and here he is picking up a banner. You got it?
No.
Oh, yeah, he's got it.
Yeah, I see it.
Good job. My first takeoff from Forest Lake wasn't very good. Well, the TR1's actually kind of notoriously light on pitch control. And when I rotated, I over-rotated and did a little PIO, but I caught it pretty quickly, and it wasn't that bad. PIO stands for pilot-induced oscillation, and that's when you kind of over-control, and the very light controls are more likely for the pilot to over-control. My first landing was in Illinois on a grass runway, and it was actually a fantastic landing, and of course it wasn't caught on video because the camera died. My second landing was at Habersham County in Georgia on asphalt, and it was an okay landing with a little bit of a bounce, but not bad. I'm safely on the ground here in Stuart, Florida, from my trip from Forest Lake, Minnesota. But on my first approach to landing at Frasca Field outside of Champaign, Illinois, I actually had a bit of an issue. The engine almost died. I lost 90% of my power, and I didn't think I was going to make it to the field. This engine is a Lycoming O-290D, and it has a carburetor and has carburetor heat, and that's what ended up causing the problem. With this aircraft, the run-up procedure is you advance the mixture forward, of course, to start. You advance the throttle to about 1800 RPMs, and then you check both magnetos, first left and then right. And then you check carburetor heat. And the carburetor heat is supposed to provide a small drop in the RPM. I noticed when I did this, and I did it multiple times, that the carb heat provided a bigger than I expected drop in RPM, but I didn't think that much of it. I just thought it was very effective carb heat. Well, after I took off, I noticed that the carb heat knob, just from vibration, was slowly working its way out. So throughout the flight, I just happened to hold it in with my knee or make sure that I kept it in. While I'm approaching Frasca Field, I was starting to get another better feel of the airplane and using the rudder more and just kind of practicing my landing, though I was still a few thousand feet in the air. The carburetor heat came all the way out by itself, and then the engine lost 90% of its power and started running really rough. And I thought, oh no, I actually got carburetor ice. Even though I was right at the upper limit of the temperature for carburetor ice, it was possible. So I put in the carb heat, but only partially, and the engine gained back most of its power, but not all of it, and it was still a little rough. But I thought I had carb ice, and it was starting to melt, because when you pull the carb heat, if there is ice, the engine will get worse for a moment because the ice is melting and then water is going into the engine. So I didn't want to go no carb heat, and I couldn't go full carb heat, so I landed with partial carb heat, and was able to make it to the airport and had a very pleasant landing on the grass strip. Carb heat is provided by this muff around the exhaust pipe, and then air comes out of the muff and goes into this air box, and there is that knob on the dash, and it moves a flapper valve inside of here. So I can either control the air going in from the filter or from the hot air. Well, when I did it full hot air, the engine was dying. It turns out that this heat muff was sealed, completely sealed. There was an air outlet to go into the carburetor, but there was no air inlet, so air couldn't go in. What I did when I found this out is I pulled the muff off and I slightly rebent it, so I added an air inlet here. And now the air can go in here, go around the exhaust pipe, heat up, and go into the carburetor. And that fixed the problem. Now it's working properly. The thing is, this heat muff has probably been on the airplane since it was brand new, which was actually only 106 hours ago before I started the flight. And none of the other pilots ever had this issue or noticed it. Maybe, and none of the mechanics, and there were multiple AI mechanics, which is the higher aircraft mechanic. They inspected the airplane and they didn't find it. And of course, when I inspected the airplane, I didn't find it either. It was only when I found the problem. But now it's working great. We have both carb heat, and this muff is for cabin heat and actually has plenty of air inlets around the pipes, so it worked fine. All in all, it was a great adventure. Flying commercial up there, getting to the airplane, inspecting it, checking it out, getting more tailwheel time and recurrency training, then taking off on the way home. There was a bit of adventure or issue with the carb heat, but once that was solved, the airplane was perfect and flew great the whole way home. I'd be happy to be home, but it was a fantastic trip.